for joining me today. I am here with a card to share with you that features some Simon Says Stamp exclusive products. Now I'm also going to be using, in particular, the Simon Says Stamp Green Apple Dye Ink. And the reason I'm choosing that is because it is very close to the Pantone Color of the Year for 2017, which is greenery. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Pantone, Pantone is basically the world authority in color, and they provide a lot of color systems and the technology for the selection and accurate communication of color across a variety of different industries. So Pantone always chooses a new color every year to be the color of that particular year. So in the case of last year, it was Rose Quartz and Serenity. 2015, it was Marsala, and so on and so forth. And the color of the year is a symbolic color selection. So when Pantone chooses a color to symbolize that particular year, they're using it to express a mood or a color snapshot of what they're seeing taking place around the world. And the reason they've chosen greenery is because it symbolizes not only nature, but it's also a symbolic of new beginnings. So I think that's a really fun aspect of their colors of the year, that it kind of has a really neat symbol to it, and it means something. It's not just a selected color. So I'm going to be using the Green Apple ink in conjunction with the Tropical Leaves and Wild Beauty stamp sets. I'm not going to be using any of the dyes for these sets, but I am going to be using all the stamps. Here's a look at the Green Apple ink. It's a nice rich green color, and I really love this one. Simon has a great selection of green inks, and Green Apple is one that I reach for all the time. So I want to do some stamp layering with these images because these sets are very simple stamp layering sets. So they have a couple of images that you can use to layer together to create a more interesting image. So I'm starting off with the Green Apple ink and this leaf from the Tropical Leaves set. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp the base layer of a flower that's from Wild Beauty, and I'm going to stamp all the base layers first. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be doing stamp layering with heat embossing. And the reason I'm doing the heat embossing is because that allows me to get the look of a layered image without having to use a lot of inks. So I can use just a few inks that I use for the base colors of all these images, and then I can go ahead and use the heat embossing to be the second layer, the darker layer that goes on top, because when you heat emboss, it creates a darker effect underneath of that heat embossed image. So I'm going to go ahead and continue filling the background of this card base. I'm using a variety of colors. I've got hydrangea, lemon zing, I believe this one was mint, and I also did use some spring rain for the largest images. For some of the smaller images, I used the new orange slush ink, which was just released this past month. And I'm also bringing in a little bit of hollyhock for some pink. So once I've finished going ahead and adding in all of my images to fill up this background, I'm going to go ahead and take some embossing ink. This is Simon Says Stamp Clear Embossing Ink. And I'm going to stamp the layering images, so the pieces that would go over top of the base layers, on top of the solid images. And as I do this, I'm able to stamp and create that really nice darker color on top, because it's a watermark ink, so it's going to create a very subtle effect. And I can go ahead and add some embossing powder onto these stamped images. Now you don't have to add the embossing powder, but I think it intensifies the look, and that's what I wanted to be able to achieve here. So I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss every single layer that goes on top of these images with the clear embossing ink and the clear embossing powder. Both are from Simon Says Stamp. Now all of this stamping is done on an A2 size card from Nina Solar White cardstock. So this is going to be somewhat of a one-layer card. I want to add some sparkles. So I'm going to take some Frost Shimmer Spritz from Sukaneko, and I'm going to go ahead and spritz this really well to create a really nice shimmery effect. I went ahead and dried this with my heat gun, but you don't have to. You could go ahead and let it air dry, but I was impatient, so I wanted to go ahead and get it heat set so that way I could move on to creating the rest of my card. Now I'm going to take the Painted Friend die from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to line this up in the top middle area of the card. I'm lining this up on my Big Shot magnetic platform. That's just going to help hold the die in place as I run this through my machine. After I've run it through, I'm going to get rid of the positive piece, which you would normally use on a card, and I'm going to be using only the negative pieces with the negative that I've got die cut into my card base. Now you could save that piece if you wanted to, but because the images are so large, they're not really showing up well on that friend die, so I'm just going to go ahead and toss that. But normally if I had, say, die cut that from colored cardstock or something, I would have saved that positive piece so I could have used it on another card at some point. I'm taking some double-sided adhesive and I'm covering the entire back side of this card. And I'm going to use some scraps of fun foam and adhere these down along the back. That's going to allow me to pop up a piece of cardstock behind the card base. That way I can have a neat recessed back panel that'll allow my sentiment to stand out really nicely. This is a great tip for using up scraps of fun foam. I always save all the scraps because I can always use them on cards like this where I don't need a full sheet. I'm going to also add double-sided adhesive to that fun foam just so I can go ahead and take my cardstock, which is a piece of bright yellow cardstock. This was included in one of Simon Says Stamp's most recent card kits. Right now we don't have this cardstock available for purchase, but I'm hopeful that at some point we will. So keep an eye out for that. But there are lots of cardstocks that you can use in replace of this bright yellow one. I'm going to be using this purple shade of cardstock from Penny Black, and I'll go ahead and stamp a sentiment from the Wild Beauty set to go along with my Painted Friend word die. I'm using some white embossing powder to go ahead and heat emboss my stamped sentiment. And I made sure I used fine detail embossing powder because the sentiment is so detailed and tiny that I want to make sure I get that really covered completely and it's still going to be legible. To finish off my card, I just went ahead and trimmed that little sentiment strip into a label and I popped it up off of my card with some foam tape. And then I also added a few Peridot Mist sequins from Pretty Pink Posh in both the 4mm and 6mm size, and I glued those down with some glossy accents. So that's going to finish up my card for today. I hope this has inspired you to create some really fun, beautiful cards featuring the Pantone green color. If you are interested in any of the supplies used, I have them all listed below in the video description, or you can find more details on the blog, which is also linked in the video description as well. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more inspiration. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye!